Namaskar. As we said in the morning, we are elaborating on the issue which we raised in the morning relating to the former army chief. Our primary concern in this whole matter relates to the way in which institutions are being undermined, relates to the way in which this government, completely oblivious of the criticisms which are being leveled at it, repeatedly tries to undermine, dilute, sort of defame institutions which are very critical to the national governance. They may be institutions such as the CVC, about which all of us remember and recollect that in spite of and notwithstanding the written objection that the leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha, Srimati Sushma Swaraj, had raised, this government insisted on appointing an official on whom the allegations hadn't been cleared by then. So that is one very blatant way in which the government wanted to bulldoze its decision, even though the question was of the inappropriateness of the appointment. And subsequently you saw a running commentary being provided by the government, its ministers, secretaries and party office bearers of the Congress party, which is the ruling party, and with great sense of hesitation but with sense of responsibility, even once by the Prime Minister, raising questions about the functioning of a constitutional authority such as the CAG. You saw the way in which consistent attempt at maligning or undermining or diluting or even questioning the authority of the CAG happened. And then you saw earlier this year, maybe about 4-5 months ago, I remember very clearly the BJP repeatedly taking up this issue of how using a CBI whose credibility by then had been questioned several times by not just BJP, by many parties. Using the CBI, an important and critical institution such as the Intelligence Bureau, IB, was being brought out. They were trying to unravel, as it were, the IB. IB, which is very, very critical as an institution for keeping the internal security and even to an extent the external security intact. The BJP cautioned this government saying it's not time appropriate and it's not even appropriate in any sense to unravel like this in the public operations of Intelligence Bureau to a large extent where secrecy is a given mandate. You saw that happening. Now again, through something which was available in the hands of the government, the Board of Officers recommendatory report, investigative report of the military, which looked into one wing of the military intelligence, a division, and gave the report even by March, and even as it is reported in the media, several steps were taken up. Whether they were adequate and appropriate, I'm not getting into it. But certainly the government had started working on as though some action taken is happening on that report. And if indeed action were being taken, I would want to believe that they were absolutely critical actions. Why is this coming up now? You are taking action, you are also finding it appropriate to go further. You could have gone further to take action against anybody whose intention or activities were malified. Nobody could stop you. Action could have been intensified and taken to a logical conclusion. Nobody could have stopped the government. But no, action was reported. Today's coverage also shows the various stages at which the former defense secretary before demitting his office, he had also taken some action. Now, if all this is happening, today to tell that the CBI will look into it or more exposés come out and therefore we'll take action now, doesn't convince us. It doesn't convince anybody other than the fact a lesser, more obvious fact will always be taken up. Is it the question of timing? I am underlining it is lesser, and lesser in the sense of the seriousness of the kind of allegations which have been leveled here. The timing is a lesser and more obvious fact. That yes, the former chief was seen with Shri Narendra Modi in a public rally which was meant purely for the ex-servicemen. And therefore the presence of the former chief, I would have thought, is a natural consequence. But to have to hound is nothing new. I've already laid the various set of, hounding or bringing under pressure various constitutional institutions. So this is not one-off. And as regards military operations, I'm not getting into greater depths, but it has got to be placed in its context. The source operations, funding, raising and disbanding units, or even other things which the defense would do, armed forces would do, are all part of their operational matters. And every army anywhere in the world would have such things on their record, off their record. And entirely it is the defense ministry and its prerogative to look into it. But Indian Army's credentials in the last 60 years in free India has been a record of great esteem and pride which all of us Indians value. And unlike some armies in our neighborhood, they have very clearly functioned, proudly at that, functioned under elected governments. They have served under elected civilian governments. And if now an allegation is being brought into this whole, this whole matrix of allegations, that they also conspired to topple an elected government, it is very serious. It is a very serious allegation, and that is why I repeatedly say the timing and other things are all lesser issues. What exactly are we trying to do? What exactly is this government trying to do? Can there be a greater way in which you can demoralize an Indian armed force which has sincerely and with sense of pride served under elected civilian governments, unblemished record? If anything, serving the democracy, a parliamentary democracy, has a blemish on the Congress party when it brought in the emergency in this country. But the Indian Armed Forces has never ever conducted itself in such a way that you had to look a second time as to what are they up to. They have conducted themselves with exemplary pride serving under elected civilian governments, unlike some armed forces in the neighborhood. And it is this allegation which makes the whole thing absolutely worrisome. In fact, a minor comparison, how does the NTRO function? Doesn't it have an element of secrecy, justifiably? And therefore, the BJP today cautions the government that they don't go too far in this, and that they should actually come out and say what is their position. This is not the first time, particularly as regards this general who is now retired. We had earlier some exposés also, probably through the same paper or any other paper, about how certain units had come very close to Delhi and so on. I think it is high time Government of India came out, explained its position on this matter today in the light of this expose, and cleared all apprehensions which are being thrown around. Neither the army would want it, because the morale is a very, very serious component. Nor do the public of India want it, because even the recent surveys which have come out have shown that if there is one institution which people of India trust, it is the army. That has come out recently and so many times, and rightly so. I think therefore the BJP would like to caution the government on this matter and ensure that they come up with a clear statement so that the morale of the army is kept intact and the people of India understand what actually is going on. So that's about the issue of the general. Today we had the RBI governor come out and give us information on the quarterly review, which is normal course done every September, every quarter. I have very few things to say on it, but the one thing which I'd like to underline here is the government again has been left to walk alone. I'm borrowing the word of D. Subbarao and probably the word of P. Chidambaramji earlier, that the government has been left to walk alone to face the challenges of growth. The Reserve Bank, looking at the monetary policy, has taken its call, its own independent call, I suppose, which of course is going to result in home loans going up to some extent, car loans going up to some extent, all of which will have a bearing on the middle class. And of course, it will have a certain cascading effect in keeping the inflation as it has been in the last few years. And when I borrowed the words of Subbarao, I also would like to borrow one more observation of the former Reserve Bank governor in underlining the point that the BJP would like to present today, that this government has misread the economy. They have not only messed up the economy, but they are also continuously misreading the economy. And as a result, the RBI governor has very clearly said that they are anti-inflation, that the RBI is anti-inflation. We would like to ask the government of India, are they too, or are they allowing the inflation to do what it wants? And are they just not going to take anything to control it? RBI has stated that it has taken its call being anti-inflation. What has this government done to control inflation? आज रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया ने उनके अपने क्वार्टरली रिव्यू के मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी के क्वार्टरली रिव्यू के संदर्भ में रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ गवर्नर ऑफ रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया पहली बार उनके नियुक्त होने के बाद पहली बार आज पत्रकारों के सामने आए और 0.25 परसेंटेज पॉइंट से रेपो रेट को इंक्रीज़ किए हैं। उसके मतलब ये होता है कि हाउसिंग लोन और कार लोन वगैरह थोड़ा और ज़्यादा होगी इंटरेस्ट उनके ऊपर। अगर आप हाउसिंग लोन ले चुके हैं उसमें इंटरेस्ट रेट पड़ेगा ही। और इससे अहम बात एक है कि रिजर्व बैंक गवर्नर उनके अपने पोजीशन कन्वे करने के संदर्भ में ये बात भी बोले कि रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया एंटी इन्फ्लेशन है। वो अच्छा बात है, मगर मैं सरकार से ये बात पूछना चाह रही हूँ कि अगर रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया एंटी इन्फ्लेशन है, क्या आप भी एंटी इन्फ्लेशन है? अगर आप भी एंटी इन्फ्लेशन है तो आज तक क्या आपने कदम ऐसे उठाया जिससे इन्फ्लेशन कंट्रोल में आएगा? पिछले 4 साल से लगातार इन्फ्लेशन इंक्रीज होते जा रही है और सरकार से सिर्फ ज्योतिष जैसे बातें आ रहे हैं कि आने वाले दिन में इन्फ्लेशन घटेगी क्योंकि फसल अच्छा आने वाले हैं, बारिश अच्छा आने वाले हैं, ऐसे करके। मगर उनसे ऐसे एक भी कदम नहीं उठाया गया जिससे पॉलिसी के द्वारा कंट्रोल इन्फ्लेशन में होगी। इन्फ्लेशन नियंत्रण करने में इस सरकार पूरे के पूरे असफल है। इसीलिए रिजर्व बैंक के गवर्नर के बातों को जिक्र करते हुए मैं सरकार से ये बात पूछना चाहती हूँ कि अगर रिजर्व बैंक एंटी इन्फ्लेशनरी है और इसीलिए वो उचित मानते हैं कि इंटरेस्ट रेट को थोड़ा रेपो रेट को थोड़ा बढ़ाते जाएं, सरकार क्या मानती है इन्फ्लेशन के ऊपर, वो क्या करने वाले हैं? अब तक तो कुछ नहीं किया। इसका असर ज़रूर इन्फ्लेशन को बढ़ाने में भी जाएगा। जितने भी रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया बोलें कि इन्फ्लेशन कंट्रोल करने के लिए ये प्रिकॉशनरी स्टेप है, फिर भी इसका असर ज़रूर इन्फ्लेशन को बढ़ाने में ही जाएगा। और ये भी है कि पूर्व रिजर्व बैंक गवर्नर ने एक बात बोले रिटायरमेंट के एक दिन पहले कि सरकार उनके अपने रास्ते पे चलें, शायद अकेले भी चलें, मगर रिजर्व बैंक प्रोफेशनली इस बात को हैंडल करती है। इसीलिए सरकार ग्रोथ के रास्ते पे अकेले ही चलें, क्योंकि हम तो उनके साथ इसमें जोड़ नहीं सकते। मैं मेरा अपने हिंदी में बोल रही हूँ, एग्जैक्ट कोट नहीं है, पकड़ना नहीं है बाद में। आप डिमांड किए हिंदी में, इसीलिए मैं बोली, बट माई इंग्लिश स्टेटमेंट प्रॉबली इज मोर एक्यूरेट। I'm a bit uncomfortable with the way you worded your question. BJP is not shielding anybody just because he's seen with Narendra Modi. Sorry, if not now, sometime you may want to reword your question. Yes, he was seen with Narendra Modi, he was there with Narendra Modi. But I will also say that I would put a question back to you and to the government. Is it also because he was seen with Narendra Modi this is happening? Let the government answer that. But the fact remains, and my statement which will be given to you, my press release which will be given to you, and also I'll try to draw your attention to the line that I had mentioned. Action to the logical conclusion could have been taken from the time you had the report in March in your hand. Who stopped you? Did the BJP come over to say, oh no, please don't act on that report of the board of officials? So this question itself doesn't arise. If they found it fit on prima facie evidence or anything else, it's up to them to take a call. But today to tell us, are you shielding an official? I'm sorry, we are raising a more larger and more pertinent issue than confining the debate to a particular individual. If an individual with malified intentions or any other intention has done something which is unlawful, nothing stops the government of the day from taking action. But what we are raising is the way in which this whole affair is coming out in the open. And through that, we highlight the difficulties, we highlight the dangers, and we question the intention of dealing with it in this manner. And in so doing, I'm also bringing the past record of the Congress party. And that's all the BJP has done. It's not shielding. And in fact, that question itself has to be reworded, if anything. Not that I know of. But again, let me draw your attention that if you are, and absolutely rightly pointing out that, oh, he's been seen around with you all, he's been seen around with many others. Newer parties agitating Indian citizens who wanted Lokpal. There have been many instances in which you saw the general moving around. So if questions have to be raised, it has to be raised about his moving around with many others too. It's not just the BJP. And that meeting, let me underline the fact, that meeting was of the Purva Sainiks. Not that I know of. I thought I've already answered that, but I will repeat it if you want. About the allegations, particularly about toppling an elected. No. As reported in the press, if they are allegations, and if they are also revelations, let they be. Huh? Yeah, see, disclosures by a board of official inquiry. So, right, you take it the way you want, but here is a board of inquiry's report based on which this expose is happening. If you're comfortable with revelations, go ahead. But it is a board of officials report that we are referring to, which has got exposed through the media today. And as a result, if you're asking me to sit on judgment about what is the credential of those, what did you say? Not allegation, but what? Disclosures. It is not the business of the BJP to sit on it. It is a board of inquiry, and it is a board of inquiry's report on which the former, as reported in the media, the former defense secretary has acted on, and also the PMO's officials have also commented on it. So it is for the government of the day to see what these. It was a meeting of the Purva Sainiks. And I have already underlined the fact that it is only natural for officers, retired officers in particular, to be there. And I don't see any malified or any other, in retrospect too, to look at it again. Oh, is he? I have no idea. आ रही हूँ, एक मिनट. In fact, on the idea of India, which actively many of the Congress spokespersons would throw at you and at us, is somewhat peculiar in that there cannot be a better idea of India than what is already given in the Constitution of India, to which all of us are still serving. Many of the directive principles are not even half achieved. We have a long way to go in fulfilling the aspirations as narrated in the Constitution of India. So this whole idea of India debate is something which the Congress would happily want to have in the domain of public discourse. They may try, but I would equate any idea of India as already having been nicely put in by the Constituent Assembly, which made the Constitution, which we adopted in 1950, and therefore there cannot be a better idea of India, which I think all of us will focus on. It is the National Commission of Minorities who have invited Sri Nitish Kumar, the Chief Minister of Bihar. Commissions are at their pleasure to do what they want on this matter. So we have no objections. Any Chief Minister can address any of the commissions on any matter. That's fine. सुषमा जी लीडर ऑफ द ऑपोजिशन है लोकसभा में भारतीय जनता पार्टी के तरफ से और वरिष्ठ नेता है. सो उनके लाइन पार्टी से एकदम हटकर होगी, ये तो मैं समझना मुश्किल समझती हूँ. Absolutely. The government's stand on this matter will have to be made very clear, because nuclear energy today, even if the government wants to actively have nuclear energy brought into this country, it has to do by two things. One, by complying with the law which has been passed in 2010, especially particularly on the matters of liability, civil liability, which was passed in 2010, and also from the point of view of convincing the people of India about its intentions. It cannot have set of rules framed to implement a law which was passed in the parliament, which goes against the law itself, which contradicts the law itself, and then tell us, oh no, this is a commercial thing, just as they were saying, the criminality of any kind of corruption that they've conducted is a matter of the court and it's not for media or the people to talk about it. Congress can play around with words, but ultimately what is important is they have to come clean on certain things on which the perception is that they're not being true to the law. We're not indifferent. If I'm holding a press conference morning, afternoon, evening on the matter, I think what you that is where the word allegation. You didn't. Did I say that you said it? No, I'm coming to it. Listen to me fully. The word allegation is something which I wanted to bring in because, after all, it's a very high-powered committee, board of officers. Inquiry is a very high-powered inquiry. So I took it that if there are words there, I would take it as very seriously. And therefore, we've come to respond on it. However, I'm not privy to the contents of that report which has been submitted to the government in March. So as a party, I don't think it will be fair on us to go on commenting on the content which is completely in the hands of the government. And that is where we are certainly being cautious to leave it to the government to comment on it. However, the way in which it is going about, we disapprove of it. That I've said, because that is a lesser issue, because it is very well known that anybody to do with BJP and in particular to do with Narendra Modi have been targets of attack of the Congress party. Because particularly after his name has been announced as a prime ministerial candidate, the Congress is totally rattled. And they are going to the extent of targeting people and coming out with statements which don't seem to have any foundation, with probably an intention of confusing the people, but they are rattled. There is no doubt. Anything else? Thank you.